What's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? Let me first off apologize for being 5 minutes late. I am having some sound issues. So, I've been having sound issues for a day or two now. And so, this is going to be an interesting one for me because it's just going to be that way. It's the life of an entrepreneur, right? It's Tuesday, so you know what time it is. It's time for another episode of the life of an entrepreneur. And this is a great example because often, maybe not often, for some people not, but occasionally on this journey called entrepreneurship, things don't always go the way that you envision them going. Today is one of those days for me as well. And so hopefully, as you come in, you can hear me. If for some reason you cannot hear me, if it is too loud, if it is too soft, please share with me in the comments so that I can make some adjustments on the fly if need be. All right. So, with that being said, have a great guest today for our Life of an Entrepreneur show. And I'm excited to talk to her. So, as I tell you every time, get out your notepad and pen, get out your note taking device, and let's get ready for another episode of The Life of an Entrepreneur. All right, let's go. All right, all right. We're back. We're back for another episode. Now I can't hear myself for some reason, but that's okay. We're back for another episode of The Life of an Entrepreneur. Listen, if you're here, shout yourself out in the comments. Let me know that you are here with us today. I'm excited about this guest that I have today. And we're talking to Georgia Varjas. And I know I probably jacked up that last name. I tried to say it like 10 or 15 times before I got before I actually got on the show. But anyway, we're talking to a phenomenal book writing coach and speaker today. And listen, I want to get to her very quickly. So I'm only going to take just a minute or two in this beginning thing, right? There was something that I came prepared to talk about. Those of you who know who are familiar with the show know that I do a little monologue of sorts in the beginning. So there's something I came prepared to talk about, but I'm going to switch it in just a second. For those of you who are new to this is the life of an entrepreneur. We meet every Tuesday with phenomenal guests that share their journey of entrepreneurship and give tips and tools and advice, and all kinds of great things come out of this, right? I am your host, Oliver Marcel, author, speaker, and coach in the relationship building and men's enrichment spaces, with the goal being to do what's on my t-shirt. My t-shirt says 2020 before hindsight. There are so many things that I have learned in hindsight, learned the hard way, learned through trial and error, learned through the hard knock life experience. And if I can get at least one person to gain some level of clarity on the front end before they do something that throws off the trajectory of their lives, listen, I'm a happy camper, and my purpose, passion, and path has been fulfilled. That's me. If you're new to this show, it is sponsored by Love Entrepreneurs. What is Love Entrepreneurs? Love Entrepreneurs is a group of business owners, entrepreneurs with the sole goal of helping ordinary people to build extraordinary businesses and to live fulfilling lives. They do something called the Big Fix, which is their signature dish. We'll talk about that in just a moment. So now, before we get into talking to our guest today, like I said in the beginning, I came with something in mind to speak about, but I'm changing it on the fly. Let me tell you why I'm changing it on the fly. I'm changing it on the fly because I want to leave this with you. Do not allow setbacks to hold you back. Don't allow setbacks to hold you back. On this life of an entrepreneur, in life in general, there are going to be some things that happen that maybe you weren't prepared for, or maybe you made a mistake and that mistake caused some things to happen, right? Let me share my story with you. And it's not a big deal per se, but this is where it's coming from, right? So I recently upgraded my system. I'm on a Mac system here in this space. I recently upgraded my system to Mac OS Sonoma. Now, what you're supposed to do, and what I normally do as well, is I check everything in this space that's attached to my system and make sure that it is ready, driver wise, specs wise, to take the transition with me into the next OS. I failed to do that with my soundboard. So now my soundboard is giving me horrendous problems. It is a setback. Now, that setback could have caused me to do a couple of things. It could have caused me to cancel the show today because I don't have that much of a backup system really to go on, right? Um, but it's not going to do that. I figured something out. Now, I was 5 minutes late because of it, but I figured something out that I think works, and I hope you can hear me. I hope I'm not talking to myself right now. So I hope that what I did does indeed work and you can hear me. And so as you go through this life, man, don't allow things that happen that you didn't want to happen, or that plans that didn't go the way you want them to, or deals that didn't happen the way you wanted them to, or clients who said they were going to pull the trigger and work with you and then they don't, and whatever it is. Don't let setbacks hold you back. Figure something out, research, go past it, dust yourself off. I'm not saying don't care about it. Was I upset about, my equipment not working? Yeah, I was a little kind of bent out of shape. But I can't stay there. I have to start making steps towards what's the next thing we're going to do, right? I had to come up with a plan B that would get me from now until when I go get the next soundboard or audio device that I'm going to get, right? So that's what I'm leaving with you today. That, as you can hear, it's coming straight from my heart. It's not what I initially came to say today. So that's why I'm kind of fumbling through it, if you will. But don't let setbacks hold you back. Period. That's it. All right. We got Isaac Clement in the house. What's up, Isaac? Hello, Isaac says, thank you for being here and being a part of this. Juan Lee is with us as well. Juan Lee said, I'm with you. I appreciate that. Listen, Juan Lee understands, right? It's life. And that's a great plug for my guy, Juan Lee. If you're not familiar with who Juan Lee is, make sure you go check out the podcast called It's Life with Juan Lee. And sometimes things happen and you got to make some adjustments. And so we're making an adjustment today. Now, listen, we got to get to this guest, right? We got a guest today who, if you are a budding author, if you know that you got something in you that you want the world to read, this is the person that you are supposed to connect with. And so, without further ado, we're going to bring on my friend Georgia. I got to make sure that I'm ready for my guests. When my guests come on, I got to make sure that I have some way of greeting them with some level of fanfare. So, without further ado, Georgia, welcome to the stage.
I love that. Where's the music, though? Where's the music?
Yeah, I got to get some music for my guests to come in. I put the music at the beginning. I got to get some music for my
Yeah,
guests.
you got to get something jazzy for
We're
me.
gonna work on that. Work on some music for the guests to come out to. That's awesome. So listen, how are you, first of all?
Well, when you called me yesterday and said, do you want to do the show? I thought, this is an offer I can't refuse. And I said, yes, right?
You
And
did.
I'm feeling that good since.
Hey, listen, I appreciate it. That's awesome. So start out by telling the folks who you are and how you serve the world.
Well, Like you, actually, Oliver, I'm also a speaker, coach, and a writer, author. And when we're multi-talented like we are, we can get a bit pulled. But these are the essence of what all of us have: speaking and writing, writing and speaking. These are wonderful things that all of us have. And it's just about turning it into a magnificent career for yourself. And so that's what I've done all my life. I've mixed it up with music and some other creative things, but I am a speaker, a writer, an author. I've played music. I've been a musician. I've done a lot of different things. We'll come into that when I tell you some stories.
Indeed, that I love it too. And we have so much in common.
Sure
So
do.
much in common. I'm talking about from the music piece all the way up to what we're doing now, right? We have
Mhm.
so much in common and I love that. We've already had some great conversations. What those of you who are watching this or maybe watching the replay, what if you don't know this, I need to share this with you. I would say 95% of the guests that I've had so far are not individuals that I just am talking to for the first time. They're individuals that we've had conversations previously. We've had engagement previously, and Georgia is no different. We've had some great conversations prior to this, and so I'm looking forward to the folks that are watching the show getting to know you as I've been able to as well. So listen, let's start with. I always ask my guests, some of us did wake up and some of us were born directly into what we do right now. And then some of us, there's a path that led us there, right? Maybe, or there's some things that we just found ourselves doing. It was like, wait a minute, this is my purpose. This is what I should be doing. So how'd you land on book writing coach and speaker in this space? What led you to the book writing space?
Yeah, well, I think ever since I had the gift of being able to write, and we all had that. We all were taught to write. I was fascinated, I think, from my teenage years with dialogue. And and dialogue for me was to write a story about two people. And it was love and hate, drama, conflict, love, resolution, hate, drama. A bit like life.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I got to write loads of these really short 1-minute dialogues. Some of them got into the playwriting that I did later. And from playwriting, I got into production. And even once, only once, because my leading lady dropped out, I had to take that part because I was the only one that knew the part of the play. So I
Mm-hmm.
did playwriting and I did a little bit of, fooling around on stage. And from there, I got into writing short pieces, and it was purely accidental because I was traveling without my musical instrument. I was a professional saxophone player. Well, of course, loud and noisy. And I had to take a break one winter from the mad touring that was going on. And I started writing poetry, and I never thought I'd write poetry. What's poetry? But it was kind of prose. It was a bit of a rant, a rave, it was expression.
Mm-hmm.
Expression. And that's a key thing for people who want to write. Learn how to express yourself with 3 lines, with 5 lines, with 10, get onto the thousands later.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Mm-hmm.
started to write poetry and I wanted to combine it with the stage. So I ended up doing performance poetry and then, or spoken word. I did it with music. I used to go out with a bass player and he would do some great rhythms and I would come in with the words. And they liked him more than they liked me. That was the trouble. Such a handsome man. I had no chance. And then I went out to the United States with a team from the UK, from London. We were a real mixed bunch to enter all these different slam competitions, which were really popular in the 90s on the East Coast, from New York to Boston, down to Kennedy. Oh, I can't remember these places.
Mm-hmm.
And I did my shows there, but I wasn't liked. I wasn't popular. And I got very low scores, and my team were looking at me like, you got to get up level, girl. But what I noticed and what I did was that those people who were getting the best votes, who were getting the gigs, the paid gigs, they all had books. They
Mm,
all had printed proof of who they were.
okay.
So me, I got together and I put a pamphlet together, it's the one in the corner. I keep it as a souvenir. So I go up on stage and I do my thing and I get these low scores and I get off stage. But you know what? They all came around the back to buy my book.
Mm,
$2 a pop, but they
hmm.
bought the book. So I thought there's something here, and I went on to write a poetry book called Words on the Wild Side. And they are. And I've been described as a verbal volcano,
I like
which
that.
I like. I think that's a compliment. So, and from there, I did short stories. I couldn't stop writing
Mm,
because for me, it was a way to share my opinions, my feelings, my expressions, my experiences of life. I lived in many different places with different nationalities. I speak different languages. And, for me, it was really important to be able to say who I was and express myself. So after short stories, I got published as a short story writer. And then I wanted to do, and this comes back to what you were saying earlier about, don't give up. Don't, if you get stuck, hold on, keep going. Because I wanted to write a book about my days in the showbiz world.
hmm.
And I got really excited. I thought, oh, I'm going to tell it all, and kiss and tell, all that kind of stuff. And I even had a brilliant title for it. Me and 9 men in a van. Wow, it was going to be a bestseller for sure. If nothing else, curiosity. So I wrote, this is my story. I wrote 9,899 words and I took it to my
Wow.
publisher. Yeah, nearly 10,000 words. Took it to my publisher. And it was a manuscript,
Mhm.
in those days. And he turned the page, another page, skipped a few, pushed it back to me and said, dump it.
Wow. Dump it.
9,989 words. And he said, dump it.
Wow.
I know. And I said,
Wow.
what do you mean? Fire, it's going to ring.
Mm,
So he says, this doesn't show your authority. This doesn't show your credibility. This does not share your experiences, your stories that really would resonate and people could identify with. This is dump it.
mm.
So for 2 or 3 days, not much longer, I
Mm.
went around cursing in 3 languages. And that helped. I'm telling you, that helped. Anybody else do that?
Yeah, sometimes you got to let it out, right?
You gotta let it out. Yeah. So I went back to him and I said, so what do you suggest? He said, use your experiences to tell stories that people can really identify with and learn from.
Mhm.
The wisdom, the knowledge that you've had, you know. He said, I believe in you. You could do it in 12 weeks. Go for it. Now, you
Mm.
see, just like you were saying earlier at the beginning, I could have stopped and said, what a waste, thrown that away, or maybe even gone back to it and tried to make it better, or just said, oh, I'm not a writer, give up. But
Mhm.
no, I got fired up, really fired up when he said to me, dump it. But you can do better. That's what he said. And I wrote The Rule Breaker's Guide to Step Up and Stand Out. Whoops. Manifesto for Rebels.
I like that.
I did it in 11 and a half weeks.
Mm.
So you've got to take
So
that.
so he was right.
He was right. He was right. Absolutely. So you've got to take that rejection sometimes, that
Mhm.
problem, that hold up, that thing that happens that stops you, the client that doesn't sign, the soundboard going, the glitches, all those annoying headaches.
Mhm.
You've got to see, well, how can I turn that around and make that work for me
Yeah.
and make it better?
I love that. There's so many lessons in that experience that I believe are incredibly relevant to anybody watching, whether you're in the entrepreneurial space or not, right? The idea around perseverance is so paramount, right? Here's a big one. The idea around being able to take criticism and instruction, because many of us, I mean, we're human, right? So, and you talked about it, right? For the next couple of days, you cursing in three languages. Like sometimes it's hard to take that stuff, right? And it's not that you should not have any emotion around it, but you did what you needed to do for those couple days, and then you were fired up. Like, wait a minute, okay, I'm gonna show this guy.
Yeah.
12 weeks, okay, cool. We gonna even beat that, right? And I
Yeah.
think that that's so important, because that those are qualities that if we are attempting to move the needle in our businesses, if we are attempting to just live life with some level of fulfillment, we have to have those qualities in our bag, so to speak, man. And I love that. You had somebody in the comments, Georgia, and I hope I don't, if I mess this up, please forgive me. Gayula says, hi, Georgia, bravo. We got Barry in the comments as well, saying it is so important to have someone believing in you, almost
Mm,
as important as believing in yourself. And
mhm.
and that's where I was going. Barry, Barry took the words right out of my mouth. As we develop those things in us that we need, that will help us to move through this journey successfully, it is indeed important to have somebody who can see sometimes something in us that we don't yet see.
Yeah.
And your publisher looked at it and was like, hey, listen, man, get rid of this. This is not the word you used. You said this does not, he said this does not show
Your
your
authority,
authority.
credibility.
Wow. That is a major word.
Yeah.
And for somebody to be able to see into you and be like, listen, man, you have way more authority than this. That is such a phenomenal thing. And so I would urge those of you who are listening, if you don't have somebody in your corner that can see your authority and speak to it, that's something you need to at some point strive to, and be willing to develop these things within yourself around perseverance, around being able to not stay in the maybe negative or critical place that you may find yourself in right now. There is a next phase.
Yeah.
Awesome. I
You
think
know,
that is
I
phenomenal.
I just add one more thing, because
Mhm,
it is tough to take criticism.
mhm.
And when you're out there, whether you're speaking or you're writing, it's out there for the world. And some people, especially in the academic world, they can be critical just for the sake of it. Their job is to pull you down, in
Right,
fact,
right.
and they're good at it, and they can ruin you.
Mhm.
And when I put on a play once, it was on a fringe theatre in London, and it was chaos. It was chaos that first night. But people came and they laughed at the mistakes. But I had one person who came up to me and she said, a woman too, right? And she said to me, she said to me, how could you put on such rubbish? It was disgusting. It was terrible. On and on she went. And I was so exhausted that all I could say to her was, thank you for your opinion.
Mm,
And I walked away. And sometimes you got to do that too.
that's right. Sometimes you just got to say, "Hey, listen, I appreciate your point
Oh,
of view.
thank you. Bye bye.
Appreciate it." And don't let it have any bearing on what moves you make next, right? Because here's the thing, right? That lady is going to go on about her business and either be miserable or be great. We don't know, right? But what it does for some people now is that sticks with them forever.
Yeah.
That's just a moment for her, and she's on to the next moment. For us, it becomes the undergirding of our lives, and we cannot allow that to take place.
Yeah.
I love that. Let me ask you this. There's so many schools of thought, right? You hear some people who are, in the motivational space, and they say, you have a book in you. Everyone has a story. Everyone has a book in them. Do you agree with that? Can everyone be an author, or what's the criteria, if anything?
Okay, so I think everybody has stories within them,
Hmm.
and we could all sit around a nice fire and tell each other stories.
Hmm.
But to write it in a way that's going to resonate, sell, and last is a skill.
Got you.
It's a skill.
Okay.
And, people say, oh, writing is so lonely. It's not lonely. That's only in the movies. That's just, frivolous stuff.
Mm.
You have a team. You never write well, you do the writing on your own, obviously, but you have editors, you have publishers, you have proofreaders, you have a PR team, you have your mentor, your coach, you have all your colleagues, you're writing. You're never alone. So you're gonna
Mm.
have a team, so you're gonna have backup.
Hmm.
You gotta have that support.
That's good.
Creative work requires support. We've been in the music business. I can't play my I can play my saxophone here on my own, but
Hmm.
if I'm going out, I need you on keyboards.
Hmm.
I need him on bass. I need a team.
Yeah,
We work together, and that's how you make creative art. That's how you make beautiful things, good books.
that's a great analogy. I love that. I love that. Um, and now, correct me. I'm gonna try it again. Gayula, if I'm saying that wrong, please forgive me. Said our life is a great editor as well. Just have to listen to it. Our life is a great editor as well, and often some of the well, I won't say some of the greatest books, but some really good books in our libraries are the story of people's lives,
Yeah.
and they make for great motivation. They make for great encouragement. They make for great examples, and so that's awesome. And I love that you said that you need a team. And for those of you who may be thinking about writing a book, no better person to have on your team than my guest today, Georgia. And we'll talk a little bit later about how you can connect with her so that you can get this process started. Because here's the thing, if she did it in 12 weeks or less, so can you.
Yep.
And why not get somebody who's done it to show you the way? Only makes sense, right? So we'll talk about how we can get connected with Georgia in a little while. Georgia, I want to shift gears a little bit. I know you did a big fix,
Mm.
and I want to talk to you about what your experience was with the Big Fix. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, the Big Fix is the signature dish, if you will, of Love Entrepreneurs. Love Entrepreneurs is a group of a fellowship of individuals, business owners, entrepreneurs. And this whole goal is to make sure that your business thrives. And they do that through something called the Big Fix. The Big Fix is your opportunity to sit in front of some folks, share the vision that you have for your business, share the pain points if you have any, share the challenges if you have any. Maybe you're just jumping into entrepreneurship and you're not sure what that path looks like. You can share all of that with the group and they just pour ideas into you. I'll talk to you about what happens once you get those ideas in just a moment. And so, Georgia, I want to talk to you about your experience, but we're going to very quickly hear from my guy. Man, I'm drawing a blank right now. I see his face, but we're going to hear from my buddy Rob Howes. And after we hear from Rob Howes, we'll come back and talk about your experience with the Big Fix.
Well, my name is Rob Howes, and I just had a fantastic session, Big Fix with Love Entrepreneurs, and we did some big fixing. We found some areas to actually take a look at and open up and discover. We discovered some opportunities to bring more attention to what we're doing. And so it was a really fantastic dialogue. I'm looking forward to putting these things I learned and heard and the ideas I got, putting them into practice. Because practice makes permanent. That's what I heard.
That's my buddy Rob. Rob is doing big things in the automation space. And he did a big fix as well and came away with some great ideas. Matter of fact, Rob and I did a big fix together for another project that we have in the works as well. And so, great experience, man. Great way to get some ideas from some folks, um, and maybe come away with some things that that we might be willing to try. Now, you did a big fix, right? Now you have been doing this for a while, right? So you're you're on a different end of the spectrum. You have individuals that they're just starting out, they're not really sure how to navigate this, and they use the big fix for that. There are individuals like yourself that are fairly seasoned, so some of that stuff you some of the ideas you may have heard or tried before. But talk about your experience with the big fix.
Okay, so for me, the big fix was it's a hot seat, and it's something I was familiar with from way back in theatre days.
Hmm.
And but what was really fantastic was hearing a perspective from people who were not in my line of business. Now, sometimes they don't understand certain things, so they'll question it, and that question could be a pain point that somebody's experiencing or a problem that they have experienced. So I'm taking notes. Good
Hmm.
ideas come from it. Another angle, another way of looking at it.
Hmm.
As you said, some of the ideas were things I tried, but it makes you think. It makes you think. Well, maybe I could do it another way. Let me listen in. So it teaches you to listen. It teaches
Hmm.
you to be open, which is always a good thing. Ready to learn,
Yeah.
because there's a wonderful bass player who says Richard Bona. He says, "The more I learn, the more I realize I have to learn."
Yeah, that's
So
good.
I'm sitting there and I'm learning. I'm hearing these different ideas, and I think, wait a minute, I've done that, but what about if I mix it with something else? So the idea of that big fix is to give you another viewpoints, another opinions, another business ideas, another way of doing things. To question: Have you tried this? Have you tried it like that? Have you worn the blue hat? Have you worn the red? To really look into areas that you may have missed because you've just been going down like this. And you never know. You may get a collaboration out of it. You may learn something that the other person could give to you and you could give to them. So many benefits there. And of course, meeting great people, listening to other people's businesses, what they do and how they did it,
Hmm.
how you could apply it to yourself. In
Yeah.
the end, as you said, it's how you implement it and how you make it work for yourself. Team, once again, it's
Yeah.
that team spirit, isn't it?
It is that team spirit, and I love that. And one thing I love about the big fix too is that, let's say for example, I'm a part of the big fix where you're sitting in the hot seat, right? Even though all of the ideas that are being shared are for you, often the individuals that are part of that experience are also like, wait a minute, that's man, let me write that down. I need to try that myself.
Yeah, yeah,
A-
yes.
and that's what I love about it. In every big fix, there's at least one thing that I walk away with, and I've been in the hot seat one, two, three, 4 times.
Oh,
So I've done it 4 times. Um, but the times that I'm not in the hot seat, I always come away with, oh, you know what? That's not a bad idea. Or what often what it causes me to do is it's something that I hear something that I'm already doing, but I hear a component of it or a tweak that I'm not doing. So let's
yeah.
say, for example, somebody's like, "Listen, you need to do LinkedIn Lives," right? So I already do LinkedIn Lives. So I'm like, okay, I already do that. But they may share something that they do in terms of how they set up their live or how they follow up with their live or whatever. Then I'm like, wait a minute. I Yeah, I probably need to do try that as well. And
Yes.
so it's a great opportunity. And for anybody who's watching or who is watching the replay, we would love to have you as a part of this. Now, here's what I did not say. It is free.
Mhm.
It is free. And so there's nothing to lose. You can come, you can either be in the hot seat or you can come and just contribute as with the rest of the group. And so if you want to do that, you can reach out to me send me a message on whatever platform you are watching this on, and we'll make sure that you are a part of that. Gaiola was in the comments, said things are happening with us and we turn it to endless stories, often little more than reality. And there's always stories in us, right? There's things that that are in us, whether it be our experiences that we've had, whether it be advice that we can share, or encouragement that we can provide. There is something in us, and like Georgia said, getting that out in a way that is in the best way possible, it requires some level of skill. It also requires you to have a team, right? And so, Georgia, I want to ask you this before I let you go. For those who are thinking about writing and they've heard what you said today and they're like, you know what, I do have something in me and I do need to get this out, man. Like what would you say? What piece of advice would you give to that person who is like, okay, you know what? I probably need to write something. And then another piece of advice for those of us like, well, I haven't written as many books as you, but I was going to say for those of us who have written books, what what is the I'm not even sure how to ask this. What what fuels you
Mm.
continue writing?
Mhm. Okay, so I mentioned it already. It's bring in your family. I don't mean your brothers and sisters and all that. I mean these four: persistence, persistency, consistency. No, persistent, consistent, resistant, insistent, and then you bring in
Mm,
your cousin discipline.
I
You
like that.
need those things.
I like
You
that.
need to be persistent. You need to have a. You need to keep the momentum going when you're writing. You can't keep saying, "Oh, I'll leave it for a month." No, you got to keep that momentum and thinking, researching, worrying about your book. It's all part of the process.
Mhm.
Discipline is important. If you don't like the word discipline, think about exercise, practice, rehearsal. Find another word. We, as musicians, we know, in order to make something sound sweet, you've got to practice it, rehearse it 50, 100 times, 500 times,
Mhm.
otherwise it
Mhm.
doesn't sound good. So
Right.
you just keep going over it. So don't give up,
Mm.
you know, and work with somebody. I have a client actually in the US at the moment who's had tremendous things going on in his life and he couldn't write for 5 weeks. And I'm like, "Ooh." He says, I'm concerned. I said, I'm concerned,
Yeah.
you know. So we had a conversation and I reminded him of how important the work was that he's doing, how it could change somebody's life,
Mhm.
how it could really make a difference to somebody who reads that book,
Mhm.
who's connected to it, who resonates with it.
Mhm.
So, that's why I love my work because I see that transition in the budding writer when they come. Oh, I'm not sure I can do it. Can I write? Is it good enough? Who will buy it? Who will edit it? All these questions that people have. And I give them 190%. I'm there. I'm rooting for them.
Mhm.
With the saxophone. I'm there for them. And so that what it means is that it's the encouragement because we all need it. We all need encouragement in life. People go on about you don't need validation. We all do better if we're encouraged,
I like that.
you know.
I like
So
that.
that's the first part. The second part
Okay.
is what fuels me and what fuels other people. Well,
Mhm.
it is that encouragement. I could say to you, Oliver, you've got another book in you. I'd like to suggest this. What do you think? And you'll go away, I said, let's have another conversation. And I'm putting them ideas into you. So once again, it's that team, it's that brainstorming, masterminding, hot seating. There's so many words.
Mhm. Mhm.
Talking about it with other people. What fires me? I don't know. I'm a passionate, fiery person anyways, you will get. So, it's inside of you. It's this urge to express yourself
Mhm.
because there's so much censorship going on all over the place. And
Mm.
if we don't get this chance to speak our truth, to speak from the heart, to say it how it is and was and will be for us in our own experiences. Who's going to do that? You're going to leave a legacy. You're going to, make a huge impact. You think about the books that made an impact in your life.
Mm-hmm.
If you hadn't read them and you recommend them to other people, this really helped me. It would help you too.
Yeah.
We're all doing that all the time.
Yeah.
Your book could be that. Let that fire you up.
I love it. I love it. Do me a favor. Share with us the 4 family members and the cousin one more time.
Persistent,
Persistent.
consistent,
Mm-hmm.
resistant, insistent, and your cousin discipline.
And your cousin discipline. I love that. You need to be persistent, consistent, resistant, and insistent. And then you need to have your cousin discipline hanging
Yeah.
out with you as well.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Gayula's in the comments saying, yes, the team is crucially important. Our social life is about teamwork. We learned everything from somebody else and they did the same. So listen, you need a team, right? You need somebody that's going to hold you accountable. You need somebody that's going to give you encouragement, like what Georgia talked about. You need somebody that's going to give you the motivation to be persistent, consistent, resistant, and insistent, and somebody to help you with discipline. Who better than the woman you see on your screen right now? So how can they get a hold of you? We're convinced we need somebody in our corner that's going to help us get this thing out of us in the right way. How can they get a hold of you?
Well, it always starts with a conversation. That's it. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can have a look at my website. It's my name, few W's in my name, LinkedIn and my name. I do a writing masterclass session. I got one coming up on the 7th of November. It's a Q&A style. Come and ask everything you ever wanted to know about writing, publishing, and marketing your book. Because that's important too.
That is important.
Who's going to market your book? Right? So, I don't know everything. What I don't know, I ask. I ask somebody who does know more than me or who is specialized in things, but I know a lot. I've been doing this a long time and I love doing it. So it's about coming together in a group, discussing and talking and sharing conversation, having a good conversation about what are the possibilities of you bringing your ideas and putting them into print. Printed proof of who you are to build your credibility and your authority in the work you do.
I love it. I love it. Listen, you can connect with Georgia on LinkedIn. Wherever you are watching, whatever platform you're watching this on right now, you will see her LinkedIn contact in the show notes. Excuse me. So make sure that you connect with her and make sure you get in that masterclass that's coming up. Because for those who are seasoned writers, there's information in there that you need. For those who are on the fence about writing, listen, you will get everything you need in that masterclass. Be sure to get in that masterclass. Gaiola said, born to this world is a question we all have to answer it. I appreciate all of you that were in the comments today. Those of you who might be watching the replay, make sure you share this with someone, especially this particular episode. Share this with someone who you know has either written a book or wants to write a book. Make sure you share this with them as well. Georgia, thank you so much for being a part of this. I'm going to send you backstage, but don't leave just yet. I just want to say my thanks to you personally in just a moment. We'll finish out the show and then we'll be back with you. But thank you again so much.
Thanks everybody for tuning in. Appreciate it.
All right. We'll talk real soon. That was Georgia. Listen, you heard it. You heard what she said. She talked about some things that tie in with what I talked about in the beginning. I'm going to reiterate this, right? Because repetition is reinforcement. You need to be persistent, consistent, resistant, and insistent. And then you need to have your cousin hanging along with you everywhere you go as well. And that cousin is discipline. Don't let setbacks cause you to stop. Don't let setbacks stop you in your tracks. All right. Listen, this was a great episode. If this was your first time seeing the life of an entrepreneur, make sure you go back, look at the other episodes. Great guest as well. Thank you to Georgia, and thank you to all of you who were in the comments with us today. As I say every episode, the life of an entrepreneur is a journey. We're here to help you in some way, give you something, some tools, some encouragement, some piece of advice that will allow you to enjoy the journey. Thank you for sharing this time with us on the life of an entrepreneur, and we will see you next time.